My fiancé abandoned me on our wedding day to run back to his ex, but when he crawled back months later, I exposed him and left him to my family's madness. I, 25, female, was supposed to get married to Frank, 26, male, about 2 months ago. Frank, not his real name, was my boyfriend for 2 years. We met at a wedding and got together within a few weeks since we were quite similar. Frank and I had been in the relationship for 1 year, and then he moved into my apartment. Everything was going well. He proposed to me last year, and we were supposed to be married by now, but he ran away on the morning of our wedding day. It was the worst day of my life, and I didn't even find out where he was until a week later when he finally reached out to me and told me that he was back together with his ex. It was obviously heartbreaking for me to find out about it through a text, and I blocked him after I told him that he would be the one who had to pay off all the wedding expenses. He agreed and apologized to me for betraying me, but that really didn't mean anything to me. He threw away our relationship to be with his ex, and that's all that mattered to me. I didn't care about his apology or how bad he felt doing it. I was very depressed and had to go back to therapy to process my emotions because I was struggling on my own. That's how bad things were. I could barely even get out of bed on most days, and things were spiraling out of my control. Oh, it's been 2 months since then, and I'm finally doing a lot better now, or I was until Frank showed up again to try and get back with me. Some context about Frank and his ex, Hannah, 26, female. They were together throughout high school and were even supposed to go to college together, but Frank got a better opportunity somewhere else, and he ended up going to a different college. They tried to make it work, but the long distance got to them, and they broke up in their second year because it was all getting too much for them to handle. He had been transparent with me about all his past relationships, and I really appreciated that. He told me that Hannah was his only serious relationship before me, and everything else was just short-lived. Flings or hookups that didn't matter. He and Hannah had been together for almost 6 years before they broke up, and that was a long time. She was his high school sweetheart, so I did ask him once if he had moved on from her entirely, and he had told me that he had. He knew that she had married someone else a few years after they graduated anyway, so it didn't matter. It wasn't exactly a perfect answer to my question, but it was satisfactory, so I didn't ask about it anymore. I knew that he and Hannah were in the past, so I wasn't too worried. Besides, I had stalked Hannah online, and she lived in a different state with her husband and 2 kids, so she wasn't exactly a threat to my relationship. He never brought up Hannah, so I never thought that he still had feelings for her. There were no signs of him wanting to end our relationship and go back to Hannah, even in the days leading up to the wedding. He put up an Oscar-worthy performance. I have to give him that. Not even for a second did I think that he had any plans to run away and ghost me on the morning of the wedding, so it came as a huge shock to me when he didn't show up, and even his phone was switched off. On checking his room, we realized that all his belongings were gone, and he was nowhere to be found. He and his best man were missing from the wedding for hours, and after the first few hours I realized that he was not coming back. I could wait for as long as I wanted to, but there was no point. Towards the evening, his best man finally showed up, but when I asked him about Frank, he informed me that the wedding was off. He told me that he wasn't allowed to reveal where Frank was, but he wanted me to know that he was sorry that it had to end this way. However, he had no choice. His family was really apologetic, but mine wasn't that supportive. They didn't say anything to me on the day of the wedding because I was inconsolable, but after that, my parents told me that I should have kept tabs on Frank to make sure he didn't get cold feet and run away like he did. They said that what happened at the wedding was extremely embarrassing for them, and they were deeply ashamed of this incident, as if this was somehow my fault. I didn't talk to them for the next few weeks because I thought that they were being insensitive. However, they did reach out to me and apologize after they found out the real reason why Frank left. I had told my sister about the message that Frank had sent about him getting back together with Hannah, and she was the one who had told my parents. So when they found out about her, they realized that it wasn't my fault for not being conscious enough of Frank's feelings and apologized to me. My parents have always been very conscious of their image, and that's what matters to them the most, their reputation among their friends and how they are perceived by their peers. They are quite pretentious and put their reputation above everything else, and I think that's quite evident from whatever I just said about them. The only reason I have even kept in touch with them is because they were loaded and often help me out whenever I have money problems. Also, my sister practically worships the ground they walk on, so if I cut them off, she'll be mad at me, and I like her, so I don't want that. Anyway, Frank came back about a week ago and showed up at my house to surprise me. I had forgotten to get the locks changed after he left, so he still had a spare set of keys which he used to get inside my house, and he waited for me there until I got back from work. It was creepy and psychotic of him to do that, but he said that he meant for it to be romantic. I was met with a very nasty shock when I came back from work, but it only got worse when Frank told me that he was here to apologize to me and get back together. Apparently, he had made a mistake by going back to Hannah because she was a scammer. He told me that Hannah had contacted him about a week before the wedding and sent him an email confessing her love for him and saying that she had to give it one last shot before he got married. She had gotten to know the news of his engagement and his wedding day from a couple of their friends from school, and she had even said that her original plan was to show up at the wedding, but she couldn't do that since she had 2 kids to take care of. She had mentioned that she was getting divorced from her husband, and this felt like a sign from the universe to finally own up to her feelings and go back to the one man that she had ever truly loved. So that email was her way of confessing, and she gave him her address and phone number so he could contact her if he wanted to leave me. I know all of this because Frank forwarded the email to me to prove that he had been manipulated by her. However, once Frank got there, he realized that Hannah wasn't getting divorced at all, and over the course of the next few weeks, he got to know that she had been lying about everything. He did some digging and found out that she and her husband were just broke, and she was probably planning to scam him because she kept asking him to help her by paying her divorce attorney. He said that he had come back here a couple of weeks ago but was too ashamed to face me. He told me that it hadn't been an easy decision for him, but in the last week leading up to the day of our wedding, he realized that he still hadn't completely moved on from her since he was actually considering going back. Apparently, he didn't want me to suffer because of his incapability to forget his past. He told me that he wanted to tell me the truth, break things off like a decent guy, and then go back to Hannah, but he couldn't bring himself to do it because that would lead to a lot of fighting, drama, and tears, and he just didn't want that. So to avoid that for himself, he just took off on the day of our wedding and abandoned me without a word. He believed that this was a good explanation, and I would obviously understand and forgive him. He really didn't see it coming when, after hearing him out, I told him to get out of my house or I would call the cops on him. He actually had the audacity to be shocked when I told him that I wanted him to get out and that I never wanted to speak to him ever again. He tried to come close to me and calm me down, but I pushed him away and took out my phone to show that I was serious about this threat. He had lost every right to speak to me or to even breathe the same air as me, and I just wanted him out. After some arguing, he told me that he would leave, but he knew that I was just mad because I had missed him and he would be back soon whenever I was ready to talk. It was ridiculous that he even expected me to entertain his BS, and it was infuriating to know that he believed I would take him back eventually. I didn't tell anybody about this for the next couple of days, but then my parents called me to talk to me about Frank, and they told me that Frank had approached them after his meeting with me didn't go as planned. My parents were obviously all for the idea of us getting back together, because that meant we could finally get married and they could save face among their peers on the phone call. They told me that they could understand that I was very upset with Frank, but I needed to look at the bigger picture and take him back because it wasn't worth it to let go of such a beautiful relationship over a stupid mistake. They tried to defend Frank by saying that he was a guy, and men are bound to make stupid mistakes, but as his girlfriend and future wife, I should forgive him and not let one mistake negate all the good things about our relationship. Besides, Hannah was not even in the picture anymore, and if anything, his interaction with her made him realize how great he had it with me. So now was a better time than ever to get back together and get married to make sure that he doesn't ever even think of straying from this relationship. My mother even brought up a couple of past affairs that my dad had and said that she had always forgiven him because apart from the occasional cheating, he was a really good husband. I could hardly even believe that she was saying that out loud and still didn't hear how insanely stupid she sounded. I told my parents that I was not taking him back and I was definitely not getting married to him, so they could save their breath because their sermons weren't going to make me change my mind. They tried to fight me on it and told me that it had been really difficult for them to face their friends after my wedding day. They had become the laughingstock of their social circle, but it would really shut everyone up if they concocted some story and made it seem like the wedding didn't happen because of some medical reason, like an accident or something, that we didn't discuss that day. It would make all their friends regret treating that incident like a joke. They said that Frank had learned his lesson and there was no need for me to continue punishing him because he had already been through enough. So I needed to be a little forgiving and take him back. They also wanted me to think about their image and go through with the wedding for their sake. I told them that they were acting crazy and it was downright psychotic of them to even expect me to take back a cheater and even get married to him just so they can save face among their friends who don't even matter. They're all pretentious and awful rich people who live for drama and gossip, and I don't feel the need to put myself through so much just to win them over. But my parents flipped out and started accusing me of being selfish when I said that I wouldn't take Frank back or get married to him. They think that I should just suck it up and do it because it's really not a big deal, and it'll be mature of me to handle this with grace by forgiving him and going through with the wedding. It was getting tiring after a while, so I finally decided to cut them off by blocking them because I couldn't deal with this anymore. Even that didn't work because they continued to text me and bother me with different phone numbers, trying to get me to do what they wanted me to do. I finally got really sick of it yesterday, and I did something bad. I was already really tired from a long day at work, and my parents were still blowing up my phone with texts, so I decided to take screenshots of those and logged into my mother's Facebook account. I have known the password for a long time because my mom uses the same password for everything, and I got in on my first try. Then, I typed out a huge paragraph about what they had been putting me through and how they had been harassing me non-stop ever since Frank came back. I attached the screenshots as proof, and then I posted it and tagged all their so-called friends as a finishing touch. Then I took a nap and didn't wake up until midnight because my phone was on silent, and I didn't hear any notifications. When I finally woke up, I saw about 1,000 messages from my parents and several missed calls. All of them were about the post that I had made, and they were naturally extremely upset. They had taken it down within an hour of it being posted, but it didn't matter because loads of people had seen that post, and now they were all calling them out on social media, and it was just a complete mess for them. I already mentioned that most of the people that my parents were friends with lived for drama, and I had handed them exactly what they wanted, yet another opportunity to speak badly of my parents on a silver platter, and so they were really going all out. I felt kind of guilty afterwards because I could see that my parents were really upset and desperate. Many of my family members had also told me that they could understand that I was frustrated, but airing dirty laundry in public was never the solution to anything, and this just made matters worse. Now I don't know what to think because I feel like I might have taken things a bit too far. Update 1. Thanks for all the love on my post, you guys. It means the world to me, and I really needed to feel good about myself after the week that I've just been through. My parents suck, that's the bottom line. I tried to stay in touch with them because they are old, and I need to be a good daughter, but all they care about is appearances and their reputation. They don't care about feelings or what's real, and there is really nothing in the world that is important enough for me to make me stay with them. My sister has cut me off after that post, and I feel kind of bad about it. But I did see this coming, and it's nothing unexpected. If she wants to worship them even though they're terrible human beings, she can continue to do so, but it's stupid to expect that I won't stand up against them just because she's devoted to them. It's sad, but hopefully she'll be disillusioned soon enough, maybe after something like this happens to her as well. I hope it doesn't, but it's for the best if it does, and she finally sees them for what they really are, shallow and pretentious jerks. Frank also hasn't tried to contact me after the post, so I think he has given up, but I wouldn't be surprised if he pops up out of nowhere after the hue and cry about my post dies down. My parents tried to talk to me and get me to apologize publicly for a few days after I made that post, but when I told them that I would report them for cyber harassment, I honestly don't even know if that's a real thing. But I had to say something to get them off my back. They finally backed down. So it's been pretty silent since that post, and I really don't regret it anymore. Clearly, some good came out of it, and I was able to get rid of all the drama queens in my life. Hopefully, things will remain peaceful now. But these people are shameless, so they might come back for round 2. I just have to stay sharp and mentally prepare myself for that. Update 2. Hi. 6 days have passed since the last update, and I learned recently that Frank has actually moved in with my parents. I wish I could say I was surprised, but I'm not. They're disgusting, and this is exactly what I expected of them. I hate them with my life, and I wish I could do something to mess them up, but I just have to suck it up and let things be right now. I've done enough already, and I don't want more trouble. It was my neighbor who told me that Frank was living with my parents now. She and I grew up together, and she knew all about what was going on with me. We are not friends, but we do talk to each other from time to time and catch up occasionally. She told me that when she saw Frank move in with my parents a couple of days ago, she felt that it was her moral duty to let me know because she had witnessed the post and the aftermath of it, and she had also been present at my wedding. She told me that she wished she could do something to help, but she had already done enough for me. I honestly don't know what to do right now because I really and truly am disgusted by the idea of Frank living with my parents, as if he is a replacement for me or something equally demented. I really want to do something that will shake them, but I just don't know what. I could post about this again, but that wouldn't even lead anywhere, just like the last time, and I don't want more drama. I just freaking hate whatever is happening right now. I feel sick to my stomach at any given moment, and I could really just barf thinking about all of them living under one roof and having a great time talking about me. I feel like crying, but even that isn't going to solve anything. I'm just so helpless right now. I have nobody to talk to about this because of how personal and embarrassing it is. It just hurts even more because I know that no matter what I do, I'll continue to feel this way, and it won't affect them in the slightest. Update 3. Hi. So, Frank texted me from a burner account on Instagram today. It's been almost a week since I received the news that he had moved in with my parents from my neighbor, and today, he finally had the decency to text me and tell me about it. He said that he was really sorry to spring this on me, but he had nowhere to go and he couldn't live in a hotel room forever because it was too expensive. So until he found a place of his own, he would have to live with my parents. They were apparently pretty happy to have him. His own parents did not want to speak to him or have anything to do with him after the debacle at the wedding, and I had very clearly told him to get out when he came back to me, so our apartment was out of the question as well. The only people that he could approach were my parents. He had heard about the post that I had made from my mother's account and knew that my parents were pressuring me to take him back, so he also knew that they liked him and would take him in readily. I could almost kick myself knowing that I had made this possible and that post had really backfired badly. I told him that he could go to hell for all I cared, and if he was living with my parents, then he probably was already there. I wanted to leave it at that. But my anger got the better of me, and I ended up sending him a long text about how he was miserable and pathetic for going to his ex-fiancé's parents because he had no other place to go since nobody loves him anymore. I said a lot of other mean things, really tore him a new one, and got it all off my chest. I didn't want to speak to him ever again or hear from him, and I wanted to make sure that he got that message loud and clear. I guess the last time that I told him to get out of my house wasn't enough for him, and he wanted to mess with me even more, which is why he texted me and was acting all innocent and sweet as if I would buy it. Lucky for me, I can see through his act now, and I know exactly what sort of scum he is, so he isn't fooling anyone. Update 4. Hi everybody, I know I have been missing for a really long time, but I was really caught up at work, new projects and all that jazz, so I didn't have time to check Reddit. But now that I'm here, it's time for another short update. It has been almost 2 weeks since my last update, and not much has changed in terms of Frank and his living situation. He is still very much living with my parents, and they're making quite a big deal out of it. From what I know, they have been posting pictures with Frank and calling him their son, the son that they never had, to be more precise. They kept thanking a certain someone for bringing such a wonderful young man into their lives. They have mentioned how it was a great deal for them because they got rid of the garbage and found gold in the form of Frank, their almost son. It would actually be pretty hilarious if it wasn't so annoying. I can't stand to hear about it and have told everyone to stop telling me about it because it really creeps me out. They are treating Frank like their own son and my replacement, and I don't know why, but it just gives me the creeps. There is definitely some mental illness there that I don't even want to get into. It's disgusting, and I don't want to talk about it anymore, but that's how my family is, and it's sad. I am related to them, so I have to hear about it from everyone, even people who aren't related to us, like my parents' friends. Update 5. Hey guys. It's been a long time, but I honestly just didn't have anything to share for a while. 6 months have passed now since the day of my wedding, which never took place, and every single day, I thank God for not letting it happen. My parents and Frank are still living together. I know that's what most of you people would want to know in this update, but I really don't have a problem with that anymore. They deserve each other, and I couldn't be happier for them. Frank and my sister are actually getting married in a couple of months, and I received an invitation today, which is how I was reminded of that crazy period of my life from a couple of months ago. It was difficult, but I did go to therapy and tried my best to work things out for myself. Then I got a great job offer, but I had to move for it, so I readily agreed because there would be nothing better for me than a fresh start in a new city. For the past 2 months, I have been living my best life. I won't lie, it hasn't been easy, and I'm still in therapy. We do virtual meetings now, but I have been moving on with my life instead of fixating on the past and wondering why my parents didn't love me and why my love wasn't enough for Frank to stay with me. The problem was them all along, not me. So it was pretty pointless for me to constantly worry about them and how they felt about me. I was great to those people, but they were ungrateful and just generally bad people, and that's why they never valued me. Even if I did something huge for them, they still wouldn't value me, so it was better for me to just let it all go. It all sounds like a bunch of philosophy mumbo-jumbo, but it's really true. Letting go actually helps rather than holding on to your anger, which does nothing except ruin you. I learned that the hard way, but whatever. Frank is my sister's problem now, and I wish her all the best for her new life. All of them really and truly deserve each other. The invitation arrived in a cream envelope with gold foil edges. The kind of stationery my mother would approve of. Elegant, expensive, screaming, "Look at us, everything is perfect now." Inside was my sister's name next to Frank's, a date in late spring, and a venue I recognized from childhood birthday parties. No handwritten note, just the card and a tiny RSVP slip that felt like a polite middle finger. I didn't cry when I opened it. I didn't scream or throw it across the room. I just sat on the edge of my new couch, in a city where no one knows my last name, and felt something shift inside me, quiet and final, like the last page of a book you've reread too many times. For months, I carried their betrayal like a second heartbeat. The way Frank looked at me that morning and said nothing. The way my parents turned my humiliation into their personal PR crisis. The way my sister chose their version of events over mine. I hated them so loudly in my head that I almost forgot silence could be louder. I hated the way they rebuilt their little kingdom without me, crowning Frank the prodigal son they never had, erasing me so thoroughly it almost felt professional. I hated how easily they traded one daughter for another, as if love were a lease with better terms. But hate is exhausting. It demands constant attention, and I was tired of paying the rent. Therapy helped me name it. Abandonment doesn't always look like someone walking out the door. Sometimes it looks like rewriting the story so you're never in it. My parents didn't just choose Frank over me. They chose the version of reality where their social calendar stayed pristine and their daughter's heart was collateral damage. Frank didn't just leave me at the altar, he left the door open so someone else could step into my place without anyone blinking. And my sister? She saw the vacancy sign and moved right in. I used to think blood meant unbreakable. Now I know blood just means shared history, and history can be revised. I'm not going to the wedding. Not because I'm afraid of seeing them happy, but because I'm finally happy without needing their permission. I have a job that excites me. Friends who text me dumb memes at 2 a.m., a balcony where I drink coffee and watch the sun rise over buildings that don't remember my name. I have mornings where I wake up and the first thing I feel isn't grief. That's worth more than any apology they'll never give. Sometimes I wonder if they'll notice I'm not there, if my absence will register as anything more than an empty chair they can explain away with "she's just dramatic," or "she never got over it." I hope they do notice. I hope it stings just a little, but mostly I hope they don't, because that would mean I finally disappeared from their story the way they disappeared from mine. I keep the invitation in a drawer, not out of sentiment, but as a bookmark for the chapter I closed. Every once in a while I take it out, look at the gold lettering and smile. Not because I'm bitter, but because I'm free. They got their perfect family portrait. I got my life back. And honestly, mine looks better without the frame.